Hi, welcome everyone. So this is the first time we are actually having an event for a launch. This is the version 7 that we are releasing, and we started this project in 2008, and it's been like almost 8 years now. And we started really focusing on open source since 2010, and slowly since in 2016, I think we've seen the community is really taking on the project, and there is a lot of interest in the community about like what ERP Next is, and there are a lot of blogs which now say ERP Next is one of the top ERPs, open source ERPs, and so welcome everybody, and this is the release that everybody has been waiting for, right? So
That is why you selected this today?
yeah, it is auspicious day, but yeah, I mean that's the real big release which everybody is waiting for, not this one. So we're releasing three major pieces of software today. One is Bench, which is the tool which you use to deploy ERP Next, and we are also releasing Frappe. Bench we're releasing version 4, Frappe we're releasing version 7, and ERP Next is also version 7. So we just completed the formalities a few minutes ago, and now officially we are on version 7.0. So again, so Bench again, we like I said, Bench is the tool which is used to deploy ERP Next and framework, and it's a tool which allows you to do multi-tenant setups. In version 4 of Bench, we have so what ERP Next also comes with is a very opinionated deployment setup, because it's not only an open source tool, but the entire deployment is also managed from Bench, and we try to put in best practices for deploying the app. And this time we have done some great stuff. I'll ask Anand to come and speak a few words on like, what's coming in Bench 4. There's a couple of.
Hi everyone. So, since Frappe had some new features, we had to modify the bench setup, and so we thought like the original shell script for installation was not very flexible. We couldn't easily change it, or no one in the community could actually fix it easily. So we thought that it should be like very simple, like a Python script, and then since we were using Ansible for our own cloud deployment, we thought why not use Ansible for bench installer, and it turns out great. It's just like a series of steps. It looks like a to-do list, and I think anyone in the community would be able to contribute and fix issues in the install. Also, some of the features of our press, like we had wildcard SSL certificate system. So that feature got introduced into the bench installer itself, so that you could use that feature itself. And so Nginx config was totally revamped, and we introduced DNS multi-tenant. Previously, it was a bit clunky, and there were issues with it, and we just fixed everything up. And the wildcard SSL, as I said, so if you have a domain like, say, nexuscloud.com, and you want to host ERP Next yourself for your customers, you can just have a single wildcard SSL certificate, and the bench automatically generates the new config for you. And we also introduced Let's Encrypt into the new bench. Let's Encrypt has been like becoming very famous, and it's already stable, and like the whole world is using it. So with a single command, you can get new certificates for using Let's Encrypt, and it auto renews it every month. So I'll pass on presentation to Tushar for version 7.
So like Frappe framework is the basic framework that we use to build ERP Next and all the extensions on top of ERP Next. So Frappe framework basically contains like very standardized libraries, which nothing is actually connected to doing anything like accounting or inventory or anything. It's like a whole set of standard library that generates the UI, manages the database and all of that. So in Frappe we have one of the first things we've done is for background jobs we've removed Celery and we're using Python RQ now. Celery, so basically background jobs is all the jobs that happen not when the user is online, but like sending email notifications or if you have to reorder certain items and like all of those things. So we have moved to Python RQ, which is a much cleaner Pythonic kind of a library, and that's a very big change. We've also thought a lot about navigation because an ERP is a very overwhelming system to use, and we the most common comment we get from users is that it is very hard to use, and we really thought very hard about, and we tried a lot of different variations on how can we improve the navigation of ERP. After like 2 or 3 failed attempts, we realized that what people are used to navigating is people are used to Facebook, they are used to LinkedIn, and the way these systems are structured is that you have certain anchors. Like in a Facebook, like a friend is an anchor, or in LinkedIn you have a person. So they have people as anchors, and everything else is around the people. So you can have like transactions against people, like you can send messages to your friends, and you can see photos of your friends. So that navigation is a much more conducive way to explore a product rather than having modules. Like right now, everything was based on modules. Like you go to accounting, and like what is accounting, and then you see journal entries, and you are already lost in the product. Right? If you are a new user, you want to see things that are familiar to you. So in the new installs that in version 7, like the desktop, in the desktop you'll now see like things which you immediately recognize, like an item or a customer. So when you click on customer, you will see a list of customers. So with 2 steps, you're already in familiar territory. Instead of going to like a sales module and seeing like 405 menu items and then selecting one of them. So we are thinking that we are giving less information to the customer, to the user upfront. So we are hoping that that will improve the way the system is navigated. And even within the view of a particular customer, again we have tried to implement ideas from popular like social networking platforms. Like you have a user image which is very prominently displayed, or a company image, or an item image. So you have a very prominent image field, and then you have a kind of a dashboard which shows you everything that is linked to that particular customer. For example, if you have orders or invoices or projects linked to a customer or issues linked to a customer, then they all show up on the customer page itself. And then like since we all use GitHub a lot, like based on like again getting inspired from GitHub, we now have a heat map to show you like all the activity that's been happening with this particular customer, whether it is ordering or whether it is issues. So to do that, we have also redesigned the whole timeline that comes with the customer. So in the timeline now, you can not only see communications with the customer, but also all the transactions that happen with that customer. So that is one of the big changes we've introduced in version 7. Another big thing we got a lot of feedback was that the grids were really complicated to use, because when you click on a row of a grid, you see a new form, and that becomes very complicated. And again, there are just too many steps before you can actually do something. So we introduced grids where the grids are editable, like within the you can directly edit items on the grid, and then you can open for more options. So this way you have much faster, and even we are using it, we are feeling so much liberated to add items and things, because we're opening those 2 extra steps every time adds to a lot of frustration. Then again, we have a contribution from Indic France, where we have an image view now. Again linked to the images that we are showing on the customer and stuff. So now you have list views and you have image views. Another thing which was very different with version 7 than any other version before is that we have had a lot of testing from the community, and this has really been a release which we have done with the community, and it was a really exciting process for us, getting all the feedback even before we were able to release, and I want to thank everybody for participating. Another small change feature we introduced, the quick entry. So again, oftentimes while making entries, you have to make you have to create new. So if you're creating an employee and you create a new employment type, for example, then you switch the context to go to a new form. Then you create an employment type to come back. So instead of that, if you open it in a model, it just gives more context to the user. So and this is all again configurable. You can turn on and off these quick entries. Another thing we've introduced in so our one of the direction which we've been going on generally as a team is more consolidation. So we run the ERPnext.com cloud where we restrict users based on their expiry date, the number of emails they can send, the amount of space they can use on our servers. And so all this information used to be there in a separate application. But now we've put everything inside Frappe framework. So now inside Frappe framework, we'll be able to like restrict users and emails and space usage. And what this really does is because a lot of people deploying ERPnext are also service providers, and it really helps them to manage their own subscription services. So this now is a part of standard Frappe framework. In list views, again, this feature took a lot to implement. It's not much; you won't even see it, but it'll remember your last preferences. So if you're filtered, like if you have a particular filter and like you log out, you log in again, it'll remember your last filter and it'll remember your like pagination. If you want to see 500 items at a time or 100 items, it'll remember those preferences out of the box. And there are a bunch of other smaller features. Multiple assign is back. Again, a lot of popular support for that feature. Link selection, it will now track like so in the customer drop down, like even before you select the letter, it will show you the most popular customer, like for any link. And this is again, based on certain user things. That, there are some like the ABC rule, like you do 20%, like 20% of the customers take 80% of your transactions. So those will show up first. And then we also have certain features like now you can track seen and unseen within the page for each user. So I'll now also quickly go through the features. So these are the features released in Frappe framework. Now we'll see what we've done in ERPnext. Again, lot of new features here. The biggest one is we have a new POS application. It is online, offline. So the biggest thing is that now it is online, offline. Unlike first the POS, like you had to be online to make an invoice, but now you can do this offline, and you can store up to 1,000 offline invoices. We also have multiple mode of payment. The POS screen still looks pretty much the same. There are a few minor tweaks, but it's the same POS screen. But when you click the pay button, then you see like you can split, and this is again. We saw a lot of demand for the POS again in the forum. So this is again driven by the community more. So that's one of the big features. We also introduced asset depreciation, another big demand from the community. A feature that was lacking in ERPnext was to automatically calculate depreciation on assets, and so for this also we did a lot of we looked at a lot of products. We came up with our own kind of structure, which allows for maximum number of use cases. We also introduced new graphs, which you can see here, which we will also introduce in reports. And these graphs, so that asset depreciation, there is still this feature is still not complete like any other feature in ERPnext. We all hope for more feedback from the users. The big, so we also introduced payment entry. So there was again, so we did a few customer visits during the last couple of months, and we realized that a lot of users don't really understand debit and credit, even if they're accountants. So there was a demand, and that there should not be, like for payments, there should not be any debit and credit selection. It should like be, from whom you're, like to whom you're making the payment, and like what is the amount, and like against what references you're making the payment. So we create, so there is this payment entry form. We realize it's like really simple, right? Like who do you pay, like how much do you pay, and like what references. But then suddenly you have multi-currency, and like you have write-offs, and you have like exchange loss gain and everything. So this became a really complicated piece. And one of the things, I think this is one of the biggest in terms of big features that come in ERPnext 7. So we hope that 80% of your journal entries will now be replaced by payment entries, which are a lot easier to make. So we also introduced a new concept called timesheets. In version 6, we had time logs, which were like basically from time to time, what did you do. Now you collate them together. So what we are seeing is that a lot of these features are actually like features that were discussed on the community, and there were long discussions on like what this should be. In ERPnext.com cloud, the highest customer segment is IT service companies. And this is very surprising because when we think of ERP, we think traditionally manufacturing, but the biggest segment that uses ERPnext on the cloud is IT service companies. And IT service companies typically do projects, and they typically bill time and material. And what happens is that the employees working on projects make timesheets for a time period, like for a week. So they just plan like this week from this time to this time I did this. So instead of having them make individual time logs, we created one simple format which is a timesheet, which in which you have multiple time entries. And the couple of things we changed around is that now we have linked this to billing and to payroll. So the way this is linked to billing is that you can select multiple timesheets for a particular billing bill. So you can either bill by milestone or by whatever, but you can say that okay, I'll bill so many timesheets. And for payroll, for employees whom you have on a contract rather than on a full-time payroll, you pay per hour. So you can again use these timesheets as the base to make wage payments. So timesheet has been totally revamped. This feature also we built and we destroyed and we built again, and so that always happens. And I'm sure we're going to do more stuff on this too in the next releases. So another missing piece was a request for quote. So currently ERPnext 6 has you make a supplier quotation and then you make a purchase order. The missing piece was request for quotation where from a material request to make a request for quotation and then a request for quote and then a supplier quotation. You select your materials and then you select a bunch of suppliers you want to email to. So it will automatically email to all your suppliers whom you select. Like these are the items you want, and you can either email them PDFs, or they get a link on the portal which they just go to your portal and then they just enter their video that this is how much they are going to pay for this particular item. So that is request for quotation. So now warehouses are trees instead of just flat. So warehouses, now you can do much more fine-grained inventory analysis right from city level to different, like you can identify racks, and then you can basically structure materials the way you want. I'm saying this again and again, but this was also driven by the community. When there's something not driven by the community, the portal really sucked in version 6, and the whole. So we worked a lot on the UI for the admin, but for the portal we didn't really do any work. So this time we fixed that. We worked with a designer from Brazil, and we have come up with like a much more cleaner, simpler layout. We now have a sidebar for the portal, and this is the standardized view for all the portal screens. With portals, we have also introduced collaborative project management, where you can basically once you have a group of people you are doing a project with, you can share tasks and timesheets and other stuff, and you can raise issues against projects. So this is again targeted to companies, digital companies who work with customers and they are used to doing collaborative project management. So this is again a very first version release of collaborative project management. We hope to improve this a lot. And this is again the screen, so we've cleaned all the web forms, and there are a lot of tiny improvements everywhere in version 7. The next big thing we have added in ERPnext 7 is schools. So schools used to be a separate product till now, so we have merged schools, and the logic behind this is that the having different because then it doesn't get as much attention as the other products, and we want to take this forward in with adding more domains, and we've decided not only we're going to add domains, we're also going to add all our connectors in ERPnext, like Shopify, LDAP or Google Calendar, all the connectors will be in ERP. Like they won't be separate applications on their own. What we've seen with this is a classic monolith versus fragmented ecosystem. So fragmented ecosystem is really bad for the end user because the end user then has end user not only has to select a core product, the end user has to select a bunch of other products to finally reach where they want to the kind of features they really need. And this also fragments the ecosystem because if there is no product for a particular domain like schools, then different developers will come up with different products and they end up replicating what the other developers do. And this fragments the ecosystem also. And if there is a common repository, then everybody builds on that product. And this also incentivizes all the teams working on different domains to get their stuff added in ERP Next. Because if they don't add in some other product count, then their version won't be upgrade friendly. So we really want to put everything. We want to create a monolith application which has all the domains, all the integrations, like everything, all in. It is going to be very different from Odoo, which is currently having everything fragmented. So we think this is the better way to go and much cleaner way to go. And this is just the schools that we've added. And this is the whole long list, but we have one surprise also. We added one special application just now. So there is no Pokemon app really. So that's it. Thanks for coming. And this was version 7. So yeah. If anybody has questions or comments or anything. So again, because then it doesn't get as much attention as the other products, and we want to take this forward in with adding more domains. And we've decided not only we're going to add domains, we're also going to add all our connectors in ERP Next, like Shopify, LDAP or Google Calendar. All the connectors will be in ERP. Like they won't be separate applications on their own. What we've seen with this is a classic monolith versus fragmented ecosystem. So fragmented ecosystem is really bad for the end user because the end user then has end user not only has to select a core product, the end user has to select a bunch of other products to finally reach where they want to the kind of features they really need. And this also fragments the ecosystem because if there is no product for a particular domain like schools, then different developers will come up with different products and they end up replicating what the other developers do. And this fragments the ecosystem also. And if there is a common repository, then everybody builds on that product. And this also incentivizes all the teams working on different domains to get their stuff added in ERP Next. Because if they don't add in some other product count, then their version won't be upgrade friendly. So we really want to put everything. We want to create a monolith application which has all the domains, all the integrations, like everything, all in. It is going to be very different from Odoo, which is currently having everything fragmented. So we think this is the better way to go and much cleaner way to go. And this is just the schools that we've added. And this is the whole long list, but we have one surprise also. We added one special application just now. So there is no Pokemon app really. So that's it. Thanks for coming. And this was version 7. So